the Livestock Ministry is still exposed to several issues, such as low performance, which some have linked to systemic challenges of weak policy.
And these same persons explained that reforms in the livestock sector have been marred by inconsistent policies and weak institutional frameworks.
Other issues, they insist, are contributing to underperforming in the sector include poor hygiene standards in abattoirs and markets where meat and poultry are butchered or kept, as well as lack of export-oriented policies and certification systems, which restricts Nigeria's ability to tap into lucrative global markets for meat, dairy, poultry, and leather products.
And initiatives targeted at enhancing the sector have been fragmented, uncoordinated, and highly inconsistent, disrupting serious investments and long-term plans.
You're right, Jumai. Well, the good news here is that the country now has a ministry dedicated to livestock matters, triggering hope that the sector will be properly repositioned for optimal growth.
Now, since July last year, some progress has been made by the ministry. An ambitious plan is underway to transform Nigeria's livestock sector into a $74 billion industry by 2035, driven by a significant increase in the national herd and flock.
Yeah, that's huge. This implies that the sector will move from its current contribution of $32 billion to $74 billion, positioning itself as a key player in both domestic and international markets for animal protein, similar to leading producers like Brazil, Argentina, and the United States.
And based on the success stories of other countries, the livestock sector is expected to generate more than 500,000 new jobs, helping to reduce unemployment and drive rural economic growth by 2027.
Yeah, these are really ambitious targets. Minister of Livestock Development, Idi Meha, says key persons, including traditional rulers, development partners, and foreign embassies, are already being engaged on the sector's potentials.
And the ministry has also unveiled a national livestock growth accelerated strategy, which builds on the National Livestock Transformation Plan.
It is designed to modernize Nigeria's livestock sector with a strong focus on cattle ranching and peace building. So, what impact has this strategy made on the country's livestock sector? What more should Nigerians know about this National Livestock Growth Acceleration Strategy, as well as the National Livestock Transformation Plan? We have guests joining us to speak on this. Welcome to Good Morning Nigeria, the program. I am Ademola Adeoye.
And I am Juma Yusuf. Welcome to the program, the first in the week. You can send your suggestions, comments, and questions to our phone lines and social media handles. They are on the screen, but let me read them out for you. In the WhatsApp chat to our phone lines, that is 081-696-88126. You can also reach us on our social media platforms on our YouTube channel and Facebook. Well, our newspaper review with Chukwudi Okoli Ubaja will get to you shortly, but first let's get the news from Stella in Nemeti. Good morning, Stella.
Hello, Ademola and Jumai. Good morning. Here is the morning news. Federal government has approved the establishment of disease-free compartments and zones for the production of 1.2 billion doses of vaccines across the board annually, with the National Veterinary Research Institute, JOS, taking the driver's seat. Yusuf Jika reports that this is to enable the nation triumph better as one of the safest and leading destinations for beef production, marketing, and consumption in the world.
This new ministry has already had a number of investment proposals from both local and foreign investors, particularly in the red meat industry. There is no way we can approach the international global market of red meat with zoonotic diseases all over the place. We have to be in the position to control all those endemic diseases in this country.
The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has not announced a date for the resumption of the continuous voter registration, transfer and replacement of lost permanent voters' cards. Statement by Chief Press Secretary to INEC Chairman Rotimi Oyekanmi urges the public to disregard the fake, anonymous statement making the rounds, claiming that the CVR and other associated services will resume on 27th May 2025. The Commission will officially announce the date for the resumption of the CVR at the appropriate time. The Nigeria Police Force continues to record major breakthroughs in its fight against crime through intelligence-led operations nationwide. A statement by the force notes that in separate incidents, operatives neutralized 3 notorious bandits, rescued 2 kidnapped victims, arrested 9 suspected kidnappers, and recovered a significant cache of arms and stolen vehicles. The statement adds that in Benue State, police operatives acting on credible intelligence engaged a group of bandits in a gun battle near the Gondo axis in Sankera. The suspects linked to Shitile and Ukum areas were reportedly planning attacks on security agents. 3 bandits sustained fatal injuries and later died in hospital. Recovered from the scene were 2 locally made firearms and live cartridges. Similarly, in Delta State, the CP Special Assignment Team arrested a suspected serial car snatcher, Henry Okbo, and recovered a pump-action gun and 2 suspected stolen vehicles. In a separate operation, 2 confirmed cultists, Mudiaga Okparume and Arinze Humble, were apprehended with Beretta pistols and ammunition. Following a kidnapping in Agbaru on April 26, operatives rescued 2 victims from Uvuama Forest, arrested 9 suspects and recovered multiple firearms and cartridges. The Nigerian Correctional Service refutes recent claims of poor inmate feeding, calling them recycled, misleading and untrue. A statement by the Service Public Relations Officer, Abubakar Umar, explains that feeding of inmates is guided by the Correctional Service Act of 2019, with meals meeting health standards and monitored by ration committees. The service also confirms a new 1,125 naira daily feeding rate per inmate, approved by the federal government to reflect current economic realities. Independent bodies, it says, including civil society and international partners, regularly inspect facilities, and none have reported such dehumanizing conditions. Omar urges the public to verify claims and avoid sensational reports that undermine ongoing reforms and the dignity of the system. And that's the news for now. Good morning, Nigeria continues with Ademola and Jumai after this break.
From the Atlantic across the savannah to the Sahara, we rise, a land of the free, we know they tire. We dream great, our spirit is undying.
Resilient, rooted like palm tree, we sway in colors, we turn dark into light, we make solutions, we ignite passion, yeah. Ethnicity is unique, we have more than just a nation.
We are Nigeria, strengthening unity, we know they can last.
I am the real Nigerian. Brought to you by the National Orientation Agency, NOA.
We are Nigeria, we are Nigeria. Together lift the dream of a land with great destiny. We are Nigeria. I am the real Nigerian. Brought to you by the National Orientation Agency, NOA.
Have you heard the news? The federal government of Nigeria, through its direct benefit transfer program, has started the disbursement of 75,000 naira per household in 3 installments of 25,000, 25,000, 25,000 naira. Each recipient must have a validated national identification number, NIN, to receive the payment on behalf of their household members. To benefit, your household must be in the National Social Register of Poor and Vulnerable Households in Nigeria. The federal government's direct benefit transfer program is helping to reduce the effect of suffering while promoting financial and economic inclusion for the poor and vulnerable population in Nigeria.
Abuja Nazo Afeba. So esom nandi register na NSR government register with my NIN. So government we use ATM card. Nji we worth 25,000 naira 3 times. I ga take about na them. Eji megoro maka mi here. Jikweru mehen dozo. Thank you.
This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and National Orientation, Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Reduction, in collaboration with the National Social Investment Programs Agency, National Social Safety Nets Coordinating Office, and the National Cash Transfer Office.
Confidence is important in life's little moments. Strong teeth can help, even if they get into trouble sometimes. A great smile is useful to break the ice, and making friends is easier when you know you have fresh breath. I give my family confidence with Pepsodent Triple Protection 123. Its antibacterial action formula gives them cavity protection, white teeth, and fresh breath. The confidence of 3 toothpaste in 1. Pepsodent Triple Protection 123.
The future belongs to the dreamers, to the doers, to those who are not afraid of the side hustle. It's for those who are ready to turn their passion into something big. And to help keep you revitalized and inspired, Top Tea is with you every step of the way. You are made for more. Find your inspiration. Top Tea, big round bags of flavor.
Introducing the new Jig Sachet. Whitening your whites has never been more affordable. Now you can keep whites shining brighter and disinfect by killing 99.9% of germs on your floors and other surfaces. Just jig it with Jig Sachet.
Skincare for my underarms? Let's talk about it. Nivea Pearl and Beauty with pearl extract and avocado oil leaves my underarms soft and beautiful. I get care and 72-hour protection in one deal. Nivea Pearl and Beauty, the only skincare my underarms need. Skin is for having it all. Nivea is for skin.
Does your toothpaste give you complete fresh protection? New Close-Up Toothpaste Complete Fresh Protection takes care of your 5 important oral care needs. It gives you strong teeth, prevents tooth holes, cleans deeply, fights bacteria, and gives you fresh breath. Complete fresh protection from Close-Up.
Our major currency unit is the Naira, while the minor unit is the Kobo. They are both in notes and coins. The Naira is more than just a medium of exchange. It bears the images of our heroes. So, stop abusing the Naira. It is a criminal offense to spray the Naira at events. Stop stepping on the Naira. It's not your enemy. Do not squeeze, ruffle, or write on the Naira. Handling the Naira with dirty or oily hands can deface the Naira. Love the Naira as you love yourself. Be a real Nigerian. Do not abuse the Naira.
You're watching Good Morning Nigeria, and up next is Newspaper Review.
Our newspaper reviewer, Chukudi Okoli Ubaja, is here. Chooks, good morning, and it's a new week.
My dear Demo, we have taken the bend successfully again. We're crossing to another working week, and you'll see us through. How are you, Jumai?
I am fine.
I am happy you're back.
It's a beautiful morning.
You reinforced me. You're welcome.
Thank you. So let's quickly begin with the papers this morning. I have the Blueprint newspaper, and just above the masthead, we have $220 million fine against Meta, milestone in digital accountability. That's coming from NPAN. Find details on page 15. And below the masthead, Akpabio kicks against service elongation by National Assembly bureaucrats. You find the details on page 6. 4 trillion power sector debt taps as Gencos meet Tinubu. Details on page 23. African Senior Wrestling Championship, Nigeria sweeps 9 gold medals in women's freestyle. You want to know all about that, you go to page 32. A side piece of the picture message, how Nigeria can improve safety security in schools. That's coming from a down in the education sector. And Sultan Oni, vital to national unity, attributed to former President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, hails monarch's royal dignity. At the bottom plate of the Blueprint newspaper, 2027, defunct CPC state chairman declares support for Tinubu. On page 7, bandits kill 11 vigilantes in Sokoto and burn MTN mast. You find the details on page 7. Khan decries festering violence in Plateau, Benue and Gombe. Find the details on page 19. And private sector activities improved to 15-month high in April. It's coming from S&P. And the headlines in the Blueprint newspaper, NDLA intercepts 942 bound explosives. Seizes 3.4 billion opioids in Lagos, Port Harcourt, and uncovers drugs in chocolate tins. That's about what I have in the Blueprint newspaper. Sadimola?
Okay, I have the Daily Times newspaper with me, and just above that nameplate, it reads, Tinubu begins moves to pay Genco's 4 trillion naira power sector debt. Details of that story can be found on page 11. The Meta $220 million fine, NPAN applauds CCPT judgment, says it aligns with global practices. Details of that story can be found on page 2. Police arrest woman who flogged her 1-year-old baby to death. Details of that story can be found on page 10. Defections not a sign of progress, Momodu tells Tinubu. Nigeria Security and Political Economy Report. Details of that story can be found on page 16. And the other newspaper, the Business NG, it says that the federal government launches e-certification portal to professionalize procurement sector. That's on Business NG. Federal colleges to award education degrees under new law. Then we have court upholds CBN's right to e-Naira trademark. Then we have 3 in 4 rural Nigerians are poor, World Bank. African Development Bank unveils $3.2 billion strategy to drive Nigeria's economic transformation. Drivers protest unfair treatment, boycott Uber and Bolt. And federal government dares Meta over exit threat. Insist on $220 million fine compliance. Jokes.
How many in 4 Nigerians are?
3 in 4 rural Nigerians are
Rural.
poor.
Okay. Yeah. I can't exactly say that I'm rural. But I'm not too sure we are not being sucked into that vicious bracket, you know. It's an ill wind that blows no one any good. Akpabio is kicking against service extension by National Assembly bureaucrats. Why don't they want to retire? That's the question. Is it against the law for them to extend? That is for them to exploit. You know, the way things are now, there was this era when you look forward to retirement. But when somebody, my own brother really told me what his pension at the end of the month is, I said, no, you couldn't possibly be telling me the truth. People are scared.
To retire.
What is the assurance that the quality of their lives will not take one drastic drop when they go? So these are some of the things to look at.
People, right?
Exactly.
And besides, you know, after retirement, you don't know when you are going to collect even your pension or your...
That is another
calamity. Your salary stops the month you retire.
Yes, it stops immediately.
Immediately.
And
it does.
I mean, some of my friends that retired about a year and a half ago, they are yet to collect anything.
I was scared on behalf of my brother. I don't get pension anywhere. But if God keeps me going, I feel that...
After 35 years.
Oh, no.
And you that you want to live up to 120?
What I like by His grace is that you're not my God. Anyhow, Tinubu begins move to pay 4 trillion naira power sector debt. The first thing you ask is that the national budget in the power sector? Why have we not been paying it? Definitely didn't all get accumulated in Tinubu's time.
No.
It's you know?
Over the years.
So why do we have this untidy habit of letting it mount? Why do the fintech companies, all these online banks, what advantage do they have over banks? If you owe them 50,000 naira, you're going to give at the end of the month. You put 5,000 today, they take it. You put 15 tomorrow, they take it. Some people upset before they. Why don't we adopt that kind of... People are rushing to borrow money from the online banks now, more than the so-called conventional banks, because they've made it manageable for people, rural banking style. So I think this is what the federal government should have been doing, not leave it for a Buhari or a Tinubu to pay, or it doesn't quite make sense. We have to do,
it keeps accumulating.
Handle our debt management better.
It keeps accumulating.
My heart goes out to the 11 vigilantes that have been killed in Zamfara. Demola, I think it's time to think about stepping up the kind of arms the vigilantes use. These double-barrel buckshots, it doesn't cut it anymore. It doesn't.
And then they burn down the MTN masts. Communication has been cut off completely from that
part
area.
of those who use the mast.
Yes.
Can you see where suicidal mumu can take a man to?
Just because they don't think.
It doesn't make
sense. They don't think.
They have drugs. What is their quantity of drugs intercepted by the NDLEA? Tramadol, part of it.
Yes, 3.4 billion naira opiates in Lagos.
Who do you think is going to? Is going to all these boys who are running around the rural areas of Zamfara, Plateau, and Borno State with Tommy guns? And the kind of weapons they have, they scare you. Let's not drive fear into our people. But who knows whether the American M4A1 has got into their hands? I mean,
you never know.
Unfortunate.
You never know.
But going back to the vigilante, it is time to up the kind of weapons they have. They are the first line of defense in these remote communities. The army has accepted it, affirmed it. In fact, the last time, one of the top shots in the army said, we're thinking how to arm them so they can hold out till we arrive. Can you see that the battle against banditry and insurgency is mutating? You have to plan into the present realities. And look at these vigilantes. What kind of compensation goes to them when they lose? Because they're not going to
Who takes care of their families?
They'll tell you they are saving their ancestral lands.
Yes.
They're not running away.
They won't leave.
They won't leave.
They won't leave. They won't leave. They're not going anywhere.
And that takes us back to the issue of state police.
Yes.
Demo. Parrot don't talk and for years.
You know, because I mean,
it's a matter of time. Let them dilly-dally. It's a matter of time. State police must come.
We should put fear aside that politicians are going to use the state police to intimidate or opposition, but we should put that fear aside. We need to progress. We need to move. So we need to up our security apparatus.
We need to
yes.
dwell in the 21st century.
And even beyond.
Yes.
Countries are going beyond that.
The way we were afraid if you give them private broadcast licenses, they start announcing coups in their kitchens and all that.
What now?
So glad we made it. Look how far we've come now with private broadcasting. I now have a wide range of choice.
Yes.
Some of us need to change the way they think.
We need to change it. We need to think outside the box.
Yes.
Actually. And the woman that killed her baby, I'm beginning to imagine if I were a judge, what kind of punishment would I give her for killing a 1-year-old baby? What did the 1-year-old baby do?
No, in the UK or the US, the first thing they will do is to go and check whether
she's okay,
mentally stable, because it's not just hideous; it's unspeakable.
It's unspeakable,
unheard of for a woman to, squeeze the life out of her.
The child you held in your womb. You held in your womb for 9 months.
Something is wrong somewhere.
Went through the pain of giving birth. And then you kill the child. There must be something wrong somewhere.
And as much as I say that the devil can never take any hold in my life, supernatural forces are real.
They are real.
It could also be due to some forces. It's possible.
Actually, you have said it that she needs psychological evaluation.
Very important. The psychiatrist needs to work on this lady, find out what happened.
No, the problem in this country is we feel it's a shame to go and see a psychiatrist, to talk to a psychiatrist and tell him that you have a problem. It's not, it's just okay. If you have a problem, you feel like talking to somebody, it's okay.
Do you know that many
But why are people afraid of the stigmatization that when you go to a psychiatrist, that means you're mad?
No. When I mentioned my wife's mental health issue, will you keep quiet? I want people to learn from my wife's experience. People need to modernize the way they think, get broad-minded. If I express my problem, Juma, you might learn from it, and I would have saved this situation for another. And that way you bounce around because you have been relevant to the environment.
Exactly.
But you need to up the way you think.
It's cultural influence.
Yes.
It's cultural influence.
Everybody loses it once in a while. So
when we did the MRI the last time, they said, "Oh, look, this is stage 2 infection, and look, dementia gets worse and all that."
Worse.
They arm you, and you're now better able to help the person keep up the quality of their lives.
But your people will say, the people from your village.
The more people like Chukwudi got their independence when they started shouting what the others would say.
Dementia is a serious...
If you want to live your life, you learn when to look away from what they say.
Dementia is a serious illness. One of my favorite actors died, Gene Hackman, died in his house. His wife died before him. Yes.
To all this as well.
Yeah.
Oh, of course, yes. Of course, yes. But sometimes too, it could be DNA related. Somebody in the family has suffered it and all that. You don't see Bruce Willis anymore.
No.
He has dementia. The die-hard man. You're not going to see him again. The thing takes
his speech has even gone.
That's what aphasia. That's what. That's his stage.
Aphasia.
That's
and Jim Hackman, his wife died. He didn't know she had died because he had dementia. He was there. He died of hunger.
Actually, at a stage, you start thinking about how to clean up things,
Yeah.
It is not easy.
It's so sad.
But we need to inform our people so that people who are caught in that bracket, they begin to know that they are loved and that they are cared for. Africa needs to drop some bad habits and modernize the way they think.
But our Africanness, it no longer exists. This family congregation, when we come together to talk, to laugh, and most people are getting lonely.
Yes.
You're living alone. You're not talking to anybody, especially in Abuja. In Abuja, you cannot even see your neighbor at times for months.
Very soon.
You don't talk to anybody. You just enter your room. You finish what you're doing. You have thoughts.
Very soon it might become like the UK, where a man could die and 4 days nobody knows that till a stinking sensation comes from where they live.
That's what we are going to.
It is not the best way to live.
Yeah.
People need to become more aware.
Exactly.
They'll become freer. They'll become more. They'll become surer. When you conquer those little things that hold some people back, you dwell up there. You're happy, and you're better able to manage. It's no longer a taboo. You've conquered it mentally.
So,
well, thank you very much for conquering today's newspaper review with your analysis.
And team scored 3-1 against Liverpool yesterday. I know what here was. Bye-bye, Demo.
Bye, chicks.
All right, thank you. We'll take a break now. The conversation will kick off after the break. Stay with us.
The Nigerian national flag represents our country's history, culture, and identity. It was designed in 1959. The colors are Emerald Green 2.0, which represents agriculture, and Immaculate White represents unity and peace. Know how to handle our flag. Illuminate the environment or don't fly the flag overnight. Do not fly a dirty or tattered flag. Take such flag to the nearest National Orientation Agency office for proper disposal and replacement. The national flag can only be flown at half-mast on the directive of the federal government. The national flag must be flown at the same or higher height when displayed alongside other flags. Don't burn or allow the national flag to fall on the ground. Do not print, decorate, modify, or insert the coat of arms on the flag. Our national heroes are not buried with the flag. They are honored by presenting it to their next of kin during interment. Respect our national flag. Be a real Nigerian.
This message was brought to you by the National Orientation Agency, NOA.
Introducing the new Jig Sachet. Whitening your whites has never been more affordable. Now you can keep whites shining brighter and disinfect by killing 99.9% of germs on your floors and other surfaces. Just jig it with Jig Sachet.
Confidence is important in life's little moments. Strong teeth can help, even if they get her into trouble sometimes. A great smile is useful to break the ice, and making friends is easier when you know you have fresh breath. I give my family confidence with Pepsodent Triple Protection 123. Its antibacterial action formula gives them cavity protection, white teeth, and fresh breath. The confidence of 3 toothpaste in 1. Pepsodent Triple Protection 123.
The Nigeria coat of arms is the official seal that represents the authority of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, hung on the wall behind the seat of the principal officer of the government, supported by the portrait of the serving president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. It has 7 features. The black shield stands for Good Earth of Nigeria. The silver wavy band stands for the confluence of rivers Niger and Benue. The 2 white horses stands for dignity. The yellow flora is a common wildflower throughout Nigeria. The red eagle stands for strength. The wreath is in our national colors of green, white, green. The motto, unity and faith, peace and progress, is written on a beautiful yellow ribbon, and it's a maxim for all Nigerians. Be a real Nigerian.
Hey Nigeria, ready to breathe cleaner air and save money? Let's talk about gas. Drive with CNG, the smart, cost-effective choice. Fill up for less and travel further. Save money, save the planet. Switch to LPG for cooking. It's cleaner, healthier, and better for environment. Say goodbye to smoke and eye problems. Do you know Nigeria is a gas nation ranked 9th globally with over 209 trillion cubic feet of gas reserve? Gas isn't just for cooking and driving. It powers industries too. Cleaner, cheaper, and more efficient. And the best part, conversion centers are popping up everywhere. It's never been easier to switch to gas. Join the cleaner energy revolution. Choose LPG for cooking and CNG for your vehicles. Clean energy for brighter future. This message is brought to you by the Office of the Honorable Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Gas, supported by the Nigeria Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, NMDPRA.
Thanks for staying with us. You're still on to Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA. Set for the tone for the discussion, let's listen to this background report by Timothy Yusuf.
The National Livestock Development Accelerated Strategy in Nigeria aims to transform the livestock sector, promoting economic growth, job creation, and export earnings. Key aspects of the strategy include animal health and zoonosis control, feed and fodder development, water resources management, statistics and information systems, and breed improvement initiatives. Findings show that the economic projections of the strategy is projected to build a $74 billion livestock sector by 2035, creating jobs, wealth, and export opportunities. The findings further reveal that the strategy will be implemented through a collaborative effort between states, the private sector, and foreign investors, with the Federal Ministry of Livestock Development providing regulatory oversight. Overall, the strategy aims to end perennial farmer-herder clashes, promote modern livestock production, increase exports, and generate revenue. Recall that the National Economic Council, chaired by Vice President Kashim Shettima, has approved the strategy, emphasizing the need for courageous decision-making and collective action to drive economic growth and development. Stay on for details on National Livestock Development Accelerated Strategy on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you so much, Timothy Yusuf, for that background report. Now our guests are seated in the studio. Let me introduce first. In the studio is Idi Mukhtar Meha. He's the Minister of Livestock Development. You're welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you. Good morning, Nigeria.
Also joining us here is Dr. Kingsley Uzoma, Senior Special Assistant to the President on Agribusiness and Productivity Enhancement. Dr. Uzoma, good to see you again.
Good morning. Good morning, Nigeria, and thank you for having me again.
All right. Thank you for coming. Let's just start off with the Honorable Minister. We say, congratulations. This is your first time on this program.
No, first time with you.
With me. Okay,
that's right.
Fine.
First time with me too.
Yeah, first time with you.
So tell us, what has been it since 10 months that this ministry was created? Tell us what the journey has been like.
Thank you. Since the ministry came into being on the 4th of June last year, and Mr. President found me worthy to lead that team, we have so far formed our team and also gotten our mandate, and as well as also formed out of that mandate, we have identified the commanding challenges facing the livestock, as it were, in the country. And that has also formed the background of our activities between then and now. And that is to say that it has not been all rosy. Remember that the ministry is new, being carved out of the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security, with only 2 departments then. But as of today, we have been able to develop a very robust organizational structure. We have identified the capacity, the talents to drive those technical departments, and we have, like you said, formed a team and identified, like again, as I said, all those challenges that are facing the livestock sector. And in fact, in the last 2-3 months, we've been able to move around a number of states to have conversation with stakeholders as well as the subnational governments. And that has been quite promising. We have had a very, very robust buy-in from almost all the subnational governments, as well as the stakeholders in the livestock sector value chain. So in the whole, it's been a very, very good take-off point for us. And everywhere we went, we've received a lot of goodwill, and a lot of also investors, both locally and internationally, have shown very strong commitment to work with us and invest in the livestock sector to create the necessary environment for national development.
You said that you were able to identify some of the challenges facing the sector. What are some of these challenges?
Number one, there's the issue of feed and fodder. Our livestock sector today is debilitated by lack of feed and fodder for a number of reasons. One is that there hasn't been any structured mechanism. Most of the livestock keepers are used to freely grazing the countryside. Today, that is not available because of the competition for scarce resources, climate change, overgrazing, urbanization, looking for land for a lot of infrastructure, airports, universities, express roads, etc., etc. Secondly, we have identified also lack of adequate disease management. The endemic diseases we've lived with for a very, very long time are still very much with us, and they are actually hindering the growth and development of the sector. And some of these things are animals. Another area that we've identified is the optimal performance of our livestock in terms of productivity. If you are looking at milk production, if you are looking at growth rate, if you are looking at so many other factors, genetically, our livestock are still the indigenous livestock are limited if you compare them with their counterparts elsewhere. So this we have found also is a big challenge. The other challenge we have discovered as well is that the current itinerant movement of livestock keepers, dictated by the season. Rainy season, when there's abundance of grass and water, they're at one point, with the onset of the long dry spell, they have to move. So that is a survival mechanism. We've discovered that this is a survival mechanism. It's not cultural, it's already been known, but it's a survival mechanism so that the animals are always, always have access to abundant feed and fodder and then water. So that also we have discovered, and it's something that we need to nip in the bud. The other thing again is the issue of data mining. How many animals do we have? Where are the densities? How do we identify our animals? If, for instance, your livestock gets missing, how do you trace it? How do you track it? How do you recover it? So that issue of tracking, tracing, and traceability is also a challenge that we do believe that in the ministry we need to put up a mechanism where we can identify the animals we have, who has what, where are you located? Can we get the geolocation of your settlement? So these are the issues we are looking at. And beyond that again, the lack of the enabling environment for investment. For instance, if you look at the red meat industry in the country today, it's still steeped in traditional practices. Unhygienic, it's not conforming to even national tolerance of international standards. Okay. These are the issues we are looking at. And again, we have also discovered that along the line, right from 1957, when the first grazing reserve was on the orders of Lulugard, who told Malam Hamids of Kano to start creating grazing reserves. Till date, we have around 417 grazing reserves. None of those is answering its name. None of those have the necessary infrastructure and amenities to receive animals to remain there. So we have also been able to identify those grazing reserves. We have digitized them. We have identified the cattle routes. We have digitized them. We have also identified the number of earth dams in the country. What are they used for? Are they suitable to receive livestock and massive pasture cultivation? We have done all those. So these are some of the issues, and of course we have the mitigants. But again, I believe if the engagement continues, we'll be able to put this out in the public space. Yes,
the engagement continues. You're bringing stakeholders to the platform to discuss issues on how to move forward with this new ministry. Now, you have a strategy now that you want to implement, and that is the National Livestock Development Accelerated Strategy. Can you talk to us about the objectives of this strategy, and how does this strategy align with Nigeria's broader agricultural development plan that is out there?
Thank you. The correct name of the strategy that was just approved by the National Economic Council is National Livestock Growth Acceleration Strategy. National Livestock Growth Acceleration Strategy. Now, that strategy inherited a number of policies, and those have been collapsed. Number one, if you look at the Ruga policy, that had an emotional pushback. We looked at that. If you look at the National Livestock Transformation Plan that was also approved by the National Economic Council, we have also inherited that one. Again, we also looked at the copious reports of the Jega Presidential Committee on the implementation of livestock reforms. So these are the three documents that we have looked at. 2 policies and 1 document. The last one, of course, gave birth to the ministry as it were. Now, these 3 policies have now been collapsed into the National Livestock Growth Acceleration Strategy. That is the strategy that has come to now supplant both the Ruga policy, the NLTP. And then, of course, out of the Jega, Professor Jega report, now the ministry has come into being. So we've looked at all the recommendations of all three and then collapsed them into what we believe can now address the entire sector. So while the first two were cattle-centric, the RUGA and the NLTP were cattle-centric, but for the NLTP, National Livestock Transformation Plan, had the mandate of establishing ranches, cattle improvement, and foremost addressing the issue of conflict and social harmony. The farmer had a crisis, building peace across the land. So these are what have now gave birth to the NLGAS, National Livestock Growth Acceleration Strategy. Now, what does this hope to do? We have looked at the baseline. What is the baseline? Looking at all the numbers, the volume and value of the livestock sector, of the livestock today in the country. A conservative estimate, it is about $32 billion. Now, we are looking at right from the micro livestock, from the bee, rabbit, pig, sheep, goat, cattle, camel, donkey, horses, as well as everything around what I've mentioned. Now, we have also identified the pillars. We have an ambitious program to grow this sector to $72 billion by 2035.
72 or 74?
74.
$billion.
$4 billion. Okay. This is how we want to grow the sector. Now, we do believe that this is doable. Now, we are going to collaborate with subnational governments. We are going to collaborate with private sector. We are going to collaborate with civil society. We are going to collaborate with international investors. We are also going to collaborate with development partners to achieve this. Now, we have identified, like I mentioned earlier on, the different pillars that can catalyze that growth.
Okay, can you identify the development partners you need on board for the implementation of this strategy?
Well, number one, I've mentioned the subnational governments. Today, it is heartwarming that since the establishment of the Federal Ministry of Livestock Development, we have had no less than 16 state governments create similar ministry at the state level. What can be better than that? That is a wonderful reception. We have now partners with whom, hand in gloves, we can work together. That is one. Number two, stakeholders in the country, all those who have been investing in livestock, today there's a greater momentum. There's a huge boost to continue to do what they are doing. For instance, we have received a lot of proposals for the development of the red meat industry, as well as dairy, as well as pasture cultivation. We have also not left out private vet practitioners and other professionals in the country. There are also a number of other major players in poultry, in piggery, in ranching, red meat, you name it. They are all there. And don't forget that December last year, we received a huge proposal from JBS of Brazil to invest $2.5 billion in the Nigerian red meat industry. And that journey is still on. So far, we have received not less than 3 to 4 delegations on that score to come here, scan the environment, do site selection, hold stakeholder engagement, look at our livestock market, look at our superstore distribution ecosystem in the country. They have done that. Today, we are waiting for the final decision in that regard. So for us, actually, a lot have been happening. And that tells you that the growth strategy that we have from the baseline to $74 billion is achievable, because we have gotten all this number of very, very dedicated actors, highly dedicated actors who want to come along with us and invest in that sector.
Okay. Now, while reeling out some of the challenges that the ministry is facing, which include that is the not being able to have a proper data management, are you thinking of employing technology to, tackle some of these challenges?
Yes, of course. In 2025, if you are, whatever you want to do today, particularly when it comes to a large sector like the livestock sector, you cannot but leverage technology. And our song today is that if you cannot measure it, you cannot manage it. What is, for instance, the population of our livestock sector? We need to have that. Of course, we have something a figure that we're working on. We are looking at what others have done, like the NBA, Nigerian Bureau of Statistics, have done it. We are also looking at other sampling exercises that have been done to give you that. But like I said earlier, we have our eyes on tagging, tracing, and traceability. For us, once you are doing that one, you should be in the position to also take the census to the nearest, the number of species you have. For instance, looking at goats, sheep, pigs, poultry. Of course, poultry is the most developed of all the species we have in the country, as well as cattle, sheep, cattle, donkeys, horses, and camels. Of course, we have numbers they are working with, but we need to go out there and reconfirm them. So we are leveraging on that to make sure that what we are doing is data-driven. Without data, of course, like I said, you cannot change it. You have to measure it to be able to change it. We are on that, and we are leveraging on technology to be able to do that to the nearest accuracy.
Okay, well, I know that one of the major reasons why your ministry was created was because of these herders, farmers clashes, reoccurring clashes. And how can these clashes be addressed to promote, peaceful coexistence? What are you doing to address it?
Number one, we have looked at that as a collapse of the normal conflict resolution mechanism over the years. And it's a competition for scarce resources. The farmer wants land. The cattleman, the livestock keeper also has to have land to graze his animals. So there is that competition. How do we address it? Like I said earlier on, is that issue of migration. Why do we have migration? Like I said, it is a survival mechanism. If a herd is living from point A to point B, and then come back to point B at the end of 6 or 7 months, why is that happening? It is a survival mechanism, lack of feed, fodder, and water. If that is provided at point B, they would have no reason to move to point A. And therefore, the farmers' property will be safe because the animals are not moving there. Now, we start this by sensitization. Apart from sensitization, we also, like I said, have identified 417 grazing reserves. And we have a robust plan. In fact, 3 days ago, we launched the pilot scheme in Wase local government in Plateau State.
Okay.
It is a grazing reserve that has been there since 1965. And nothing has been done to attract livestock keepers into that 100,000 hectares of land. An ambient area that has all it takes to keep your livestock safe. Now that has been done. Now that model contains one, we are going to get into massive pasture cultivation, including dry season pasture irrigation. And that tells you that any livestock keeper that goes in there will have no reason to leave that place. That grazing reserve has 22 earth dams.
Okay.
We are going to desilt them to make sure that they have enough water reservoir for dry season irrigation. We are going to build veterinary clinics there, as well as primary health care, as well as school for the children of livestock keepers. Now, that is going to happen. Now, with that model, who will want to now start driving his cattle away from Wase to either Calabar or Bodinga or Isheyin, or even within Plateau State itself? The need to do that will no longer be there. So this is what we are looking at. And where you have, for instance...
When are you going to kickstart all this?
It has already been kickstarted. I told you, I came back from Wase local government 3 days ago.
Okay.
The matter is still alive. It is in the front burner. And even last night, I had conversations with some of the key players in Plateau. So we are driving that process. And we are going to flag that as a model for other grazing reserves to fall in line, working with the subnational governments. Now, this we believe is a permanent solution non-kinetic permanent solution to farmer hardship crisis in the country. This is happening, and we do believe that this is the right way to go. Unless, of course, there is a superior opinion that somebody can keep cattle in the moon. Now we have these grazing reserves, we have them, and the subnational governments are willing to work with us. We are very, very grateful for that. And that is the way to go. Now, where, for instance, you have 30 to 40,000 heads of cattle in one area, imagine the amount of milk you are going to get. Even if the Nigerian cow is going to give you 2 liters, that will now attract dairy processors. Now, where I have that number of animals again, it will also attract some modular abattoirs. Much more. Where you have modular abattoirs, you will also have high quality hides and skin for leather works. Imagine also where you are going to have the waste of those animals that can now go into biodigester. The sludge, after you take the methane, will now go to the field as organic fertilizer. This is what we are talking about. This is what we are looking at. And therefore, each of these grazing reserves will ultimately become an economic hub. We have spoken to a number of other agencies. For instance, Rural Electrification Agency, we are going to have an MOU so that we have solar energy in those areas. We are also conscious of climate change, and therefore we are going to rely on renewable energy to drive all those processes. This is what we're talking about, and this is the way to go. So for the farmer hardship clashes, this is how it's going to be. And those grazing reserves are not only going to be left pastoralist. Anybody who wants to establish large-scale pasture cultivation, you want to establish a ranch, you can also, land can also be leased to you. It's meant for grazing. It's a grazing reserve.
But so we've had issues when the Ruga, initiative was introduced. A lot of people said they were not going to give their land for things like that. So how have you been able to bring them to the table to discuss the potentials of this livestock ministry?
Or better still, let me just add to our question. You said you have had meetings with state governments and all that. What about the locals themselves? Have you met with them?
We have met with the locals. Anywhere we go, we do stakeholder engagement. We involve traditional rulers. We involve everybody, including the farmers, who has a stake on land. We involve everybody, and the sensitization is ongoing.
Okay.
We are selling a blueprint for multidimensional prosperity, economic and social prosperity. That is what we are selling. But again, going back to the question you asked about people not wanting to give their land, the land belongs to the government. And these grazing reserves have been gazetted. They have been designated and they have been gazetted. So the land belongs to the governors. The governors have agreed to carve out those portions of land and then gazette them. That is a legal instrument to say that this area is reserved for grazing. So if somebody is there, we don't talk to him. We talk to the governor. It's either we stay with you peacefully, you are doing farming, it's going to be a symbiotic relationship. We get the farm residue from you, and you get organic fertilizer from the livestock keeper.
Exactly.
That's what used to happen.
But governments, so you said 16 governments are already on board, but even state governments, when the Ruga initiative was meant to be implemented, even state governments some of state governments were against it.
Now,
so how have you been able to bring them on board?
Let me ask you a rhetorical question. What is Ruga? The emotions were just emotions without facts. They were just emotions without facts. There are 2 irreducible minimums. Number 1, every business requires premises. Let's agree on that.
Yes.
School, university, airport, poultry, piggery, ranch, we all require land. So nobody can hold his business premises in air. Even aircraft have to land. We agree on that. Secondly, everybody that's in legitimate business is covered by the law. Keeping animals is legitimate. So you are covered by the law. And today, we need animal sourced protein, egg, milk, and meat. Where do they come from? If we agree we need all those things, let's also agree that they need premises, it's a legitimate business, therefore they are covered by the law. Now, Ruga you are talking about, what were the facts against Ruga? It was just a bandwagon movement. Somebody says you can't have Ruga. What is Ruga? They call it Rural Grazing Area. That is an acronym that probably people just invented. Ruga is a Hausa word for cattle camp. Ruga, singular, rugage, plural. So it was just emotionally driven. We didn't have the facts. We didn't have the facts. Today you are looking at an economic sector worth $32 billion, and you say you don't want it on the land. You want to drive away $32 billion out of your economy? What is the contribution of the GDP? It's huge. Employment, how many? Millions of people are employed. Food security, food safety, food availability. These are the issues we're talking about. So let's get less emotional about all these things. Today, we have gone beyond Ruga that was just cattle-centric. We are talking about all farmable animals. All farmable animals. And just close your eyes. From New Marte to Calabar, New Marte in Borno State, from Bodinga to Abeokuta. Show me any rural area where in that ecosystem there is no chicken, there is no goat, there is no sheep, there is no cow, there is no donkey, there is no camel. These are part of our national ecosystem. And we need them. We need them. If you look at the contribution of livestock in some other areas that are far less endowed than Nigeria, you just shake your head in pity for us. Now that of all this neglect from 1960 to date, nobody thought it wise to create a federal ministry at the national level until this regime came into power. Today it has happened, and therefore we are not just looking at cattle. We are not looking at just Ruga. We are looking at the entire gamut of livestock economy.
Value chain.
The value chain.
Okay.
Fodder production alone is a business on its own. Compounding concentrate is a business on its own.
Yeah.
Leather works, almost 23 billion worth, can create 700,000 jobs. So, dairy value chain, meat processing, look at abattoir operations, look at piggery operations. I went to Plateau. Today, the government there is building 500 bulls capacity modern abattoir in Jos. They are building also 500 pig capacity processing in Jos. Where are those going to come? On a daily basis. And that means that you need 182,500 bulls or pigs every day. That will get everybody employed. And by the time you process, you are talking about cold chain storage, cold chain transportation, and packaging. This is what we are looking at. So it's not look about emotions. It's about the reality that, look, multidimensional prosperity has now come.
All right.
Let us get up, wise up, and
accept
grab
it. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Just a moment. Just a moment, please. We want to just inform our viewers that they can also participate in this discussion, which is National Livestock Development Accelerator Strategy, by sending us text messages on our phone or WhatsApp messages on number 0816652 08169520649. So the number is displayed on your screen. So if you have any suggestion or questions, please just send text messages or WhatsApp messages. Thank you very much. Okay.
Just to add to the emotional.
We're just coming to you actually.
No, before you come to me,
Yeah,
before I lose a train of thought on that. With respect to the emotional angle that Honorable Minister had just stated, the grazing reserves you are talking about, where you want to do this investment in the cattle subsector, are located in the northern Nigeria, and all the state governors in the states where you have those grazing reserves, they are all interested. And let me also shock you. The grazing reserves are there. The lands are empty, occupied by whoever wants to be there. So the land does not belong to anybody again.
Okay.
Take was a grazing reserve, 100,000 hectares. There is no body that owns the land except the government of Plateau State. Kenam Grazing Reserve, 28,000 hectares, owned by government of Plateau State, because the settlement had been done in the colonial time when the reserve, just like the university, Ahmadu Bello University does not belong to Zaria people again. It belongs to the CEO of that land belongs to Kaduna State government. So Kaduna State government can will out, do whatever it wants. So because when it came up, people did not look at the facts. People, took the bandwagon effect, the sentiment, emotions. No grazing reserve. Even in the northern Nigeria, there is no grazing reserve in Kano State.
Even in Borno?
In Borno, you have many.
Yeah.
In Adamawa, you have many. I just use Kano as an example. There is no grazing reserve in Kano, but every other northern Nigerian state has grazing reserve. And also to shock you, the least in terms of hectareage in the whole of northern Nigeria is in Benue State. We have 3.6 million hectares. Less than 1% is in Benue. So the rest of them are in northern Nigeria in states that are receptive to the idea.
Okay, states that are receptive.
That is where the grazing reserves, that is just to buttress what Honorable Minister has stated as just a motion-driven, campaign, because it's not based on facts. Nobody is coming to take your land. All the grazing reserves he talked about are in northern Nigerian states. You have Awe here, 27,000. You have Kurudu. You have in Abuja. You have 3.
But what about the other parts of Nigeria?
Oh, that is what I'm trying to say. When you say people are against that, you are coming to take their land. Government is not coming to take anybody's land. The lands are already. In fact, in terms of security contribution, it is better that government gets businesses back to these ungoverned ecosystem spaces so that there will be a form of structured governance and law and order. In Wase Grazing Reserve, it belongs to nobody. Government is not doing anything with it, so anybody can come in. But when you now bring in structured businesses are there, they will begin to identify who and who are there. And in terms of the registration of the cattle, the tagging, that will also help provide data so that the security agencies can now leverage to know. When somebody is not, if you have that 100,000 hectare developed, you have 200,000 cattle within that ecosystem, and they're all tagged. And you now see somebody maybe from outside Nigeria bringing in his cattle. You already know that this person can be a potential security risk, and government can do. So, do you prefer leaving those spaces empty? Nobody is there. Anybody can just come and they erect something, and then, can cause havoc. So, nobody is coming to take anybody's land. The lands are already there. They had already been allocated, gazetted, and as far as I'm talking to you, I can mention many. If you go to Gombe State, you have Owazangi, 147,000 hectares of land lying fallow. If you go to Mayobelewa in Adamawa, Gongoshi, opposite Sebore Farms, is 20-something thousand hectares. You have some in Zamfara State, 300,000 hectares. What is happening? Because nobody is doing anything there, so criminals can actually take over the space. The end point of what I'm trying to say is that nobody is coming to take anybody's land. A University of Abuja has more than 5,000 hectares. So if the Vice Chancellor, and that space majority, if the Vice Chancellor decide now to say, okay, I'm going to establish 1 million bed capacity poultry within that land, is he taking somebody's land?
No.
If the Vice Chancellor decides to say, I want to develop housing estate for hostels for students, I want to use 100 hectares to develop hostels that will take 50,000 students, is the Vice Chancellor coming to take somebody's land? So if the land in Awe Grazing Reserve, 28,000 hectares, if Governor Esule now decide to say, I will build a meat processing plant there, is he coming to take somebody's land? If he decides to say, I will build...
Yeah, because this land have been abandoned for so long.
No, it is still not, nobody still... Look, I will tell you something. We went to Awe. We met people that are doing... There is one man, he retired from the Ministry of his forestry department there. He had just appointed himself the controller of the land. He still, because Awe is a village, he was in Lafia, so people believe he has access to government. So if you want to farm, or if you want to rear your animal, you just come and pay him money. You are not paying to the Emir of Awe. You are not paying to the local government chairman. You are not paying, his name is Afro. That's what they call him. So you come and pay money to Afro. Afro now will give you, do this thing. So that land is not administered by anybody.
Okay. So from your perspective now, what changes or improvements are needed so that, to enhance and strengthen the strategy?
You see what the strategy, the very excellent strategy by the Honorable Minister, the Ministry, I've read part of it. They have 3 pillars: productivity boosting, market access and ecosystem building, and cross-cutting support. So if productivity boosting, feed and fodder, one of the, we asked the agro-pastoralists who had decided to come and settle there, there's 2 problems they said: Rua, which is water, Chiawa, which is grass. So how do you, that is the primary cause of the farmer header crisis. Okay. So we have this land. We have, and almost all the grazing reserves, they have head dams. And it's not being utilized. So the ministry is coming with this very robust, laudable plan, strategy, to come and say, let's revitalize this ecosystem. Let's encourage people to enter into pasture production. The head dams in NEWS24, it was designed by engineers. They calculated the carrying capacity of that ecosystem and what is the water requirement for that carrying capacity, number of heads. And they designed an head dam that can support all year round animal grazing and feed and fodder production, leveraging the water from the dam. But what has happened? Over the years, more than 40 years, abandoned, it's been completely silted. You can stand on top of it, but this was a very deep that can swallow a 1-story building when it was designed. Okay. So if you come and then desilt it, you have enough water. If you come and then put, demonstration plots, how to grow pasture, I will give you a statistics. Okay. If you have super napier grass under irrigation, you can get as much as 300 tons per year. 350. So that 350 can actually support between 45 to 50 cow. The average size of our cow currently is around 250 kg. So the cow can eat maximum around 3% of its body weight, which is like 7.5. So if you divide 7.5 kg times it by 365, now divided by 350,000, you will see you have more than 40-something cows you can support. So, and then that 1 hectare can also give you planting material. If you want it to just for propagation of planting material, can also give you planting material for 100 hectares. So what does it mean? If you put 100 hectares in 1 year, you can get planting material, you can use it as a source of planting material for 10,000 hectares. If you put 500 hectares, you can planting material for 50,000 hectares. And you have, when you desilt the dam, so that 100,000 hectares, if you are using 80,000 hectares at just very conservative estimate of 2020, you have 1.6 million heads of cattle. The resident there will have enough water and will have all year round supply of grasses. Then once you have 1.6 million heads of cattle, or even 200,000 heads of cattle at a place, you see veterinary clinics will come in. You see people that supply feed and fodder, fattening. Milk companies will come in, because some of them, they will all not be bulls. You have the dairy cows, lactating cows. They will come in, get the milk and move it out of the district. Feed companies, fish feed companies will come, because for each cow that is slaughtered, you extract, because it will not just be 200,000 or 1 million heads of cattle by just the random way, we do it, very dirty way that we are doing it currently in the country. So you have abattoir. They will drain the blood. The feed companies will come. Fish feed companies will come, or even aquaculture, fish producing companies that will just leverage it directly to do that. Then schools will set up, because by the time these people begin to make money, some of them will prefer to send their children to private schools. Is it not job? Is it not growing the economy? If you look at that NL gas strategy, in 2035, we're expecting $24 billion in revenue and around $2.4 billion in taxes to the federal government and state. What is $2.4 billion at the current exchange rate? You are looking close to $4 trillion naira that would have just been there, coupled with the social engineering that, social prosperity that the Honorable Minister talked about. The money would have used in combating insecurity and all the vices that comes with joblessness. You have a whole lot of people that are from, who no, you don't know where they are from, they are there. Because it's an empty land, it belongs to government, but government is not using it to do anything.
Okay.
So we drive productivity, feed and fodder, irrigation, market access. Market access, when you cluster them together, there is an incentive for investors to come and leverage the access to raw material there. And then other cross-cutting issues, the social cohesion they are talking about, the peace building, education. Currently, people living within that ecosystem are not going to school, are not doing anything. But once they begin to have prosperity, they send their children to school. Some will become doctors, some will become engineers, and they will still trace their roots back.
And we have millions of veterinary doctors just hanging there.
Okay, now we have some responses from our viewers, and one says, good morning, ask the minister, meat is still very costly because there are no cattle to sell as meat. How can we rear more for eating? That's from Ozegbe in Abuja. Then this one says, National Livestock Accelerated Development Strategy. Accelerated development is the emphasis. I'm glued to the program and share the grand plan. Thanks, Honorable Minister, for being a detribalized Nigerian, for citing the pilot scheme in Wase, Plateau State. I pray it becomes a huge success to be counted as your major achievement and overall achievement of President Bola Tinubu. Your working visit to NVR VOM is a commendable step in the right direction. God bless your vision. This one is from Chesil Drinkard Esquire. Then from Akeju Olagbaju, Honorable Minister has my kudos, but I think the special assistant should know that not all grazing reserves are in the north. Some are in the south, and in particular southwest, and these are all well gazetted. The livestock sector, to me, is a conversion factor to crop sector or value added to crops, so it is naturally a huge business. And both says, good morning to you all. Thank you for this conversation. My take is this: I want to believe that this land is to be used should only be for livestock, not for people resettlement. Akiola, that's and this from Just. Do you have some?
Yeah, I have some.
Okay,
yeah,
okay, maybe you can take
and
some of
please,
yours.
when you send the text messages or WhatsApp, put your name at the end of your, your question. I have one here. It says, are these policy documents available online for private sector and individuals? What are the strategies in place to curb corruption? That's coming from Yusuf Abdul in Zaria. And another one said, good morning, Nigeria. My question is this livestock farming resettlement for individuals or federal government interest? And the other one said, please, what can we do about open grazing? It is still a major problem to farming in Nigeria. Farmers and herders are dying. Let's go ranching. That's coming from Chooks. And another one said, thank you for the National Livestock Development Strategy Initiative. This is the welcome development, and it will be good to position the strategy to also address the widespread malnutrition in the country. Many nutrition-sensitive activities can be developed from the strategy, such as increased milk production and production of many dairy-based products. Milk production from goat is increasing globally, and this can be promoted across the 6 geopolitical zones. The increasing use of agricultural produce for livestock production is contributing to the increasing food insecurity, and developing alternatives feeding strategies for the livestock may be helpful. Thank you.
Maybe the minister will respond to some of this.
Thank you, fellow Nigerians, for this warm and kind words. It's very encouraging. We're together, sensitization continues, and I'm happy that actually there is some interest from there. Now, the question that was asked about why it means expensive, we don't have enough cows, this has to do with probably what we're talking about, breed improvement. The average Nigerian cow gives you 1 to 2 liters. The counterpart has been 30, 40, 60. So that's a huge difference. The growth rate of the average Nigerian cow, the first age of breeding of a heifer here means a female cow.
Okay.
is about 3.5 years to 4 years. You are carrying an animal for that long without milk, without giving you a baby. The average breeding age of the counterparts elsewhere is 15 months. By 22 months, they have given their first baby. So that is a huge difference. But if you look at, for instance,
this is the kind of breed that we have
is the
here.
kind of breed. It's about genetics. It's about genetics. It's just, for instance, comparing a model 2025 vehicle with a 1960 vehicle. There's a huge difference. But the fault is not the fault of the cows. It's not the fault of the animals. It is the fault of the keepers. Those who own the animals have not been able to genetically improve them. So what we are talking about today, we want to leapfrog the livestock sector. One, if we take genetic improvement, for instance, we will do 2-3 things. Number one, we'll do natural servicing. We'll bring exotic bulls to come and service our cows. Now, cow here is the female one that is of breeding age.
Okay.
Then you get a spiro kid by crossing. We also do artificial insemination, where you don't come with the cow, with the bull. You come with the semen and artificially inseminate your own heifers here. We'll also do embryo transfer. Embryo transfer is just like an IVF in the human version. Now you harvest the eggs, fertilize them outside, and then implant them into a surrogate mother that is prepared. Now the beauty of that one is that from a single mother, you can harvest a lot of eggs, fertilize them, and then put them into different surrogate mothers. Now once you do that, you are getting 100% from the parent stock. Now that can leapfrog whatever you are doing. And that we are going to accept those 3 methods because of where we are.
Okay.
To make sure that we get those spiro genetics with spiro performance. What do I mean by spiro performance? We have already looked at our average cows give 1 to 2 liters. We want, by the time we do that, we get minimum 15-20 liters per cow per day. But the next stage, if you want to go into F2, F3, you can get almost 45 liters per day. And that can make a huge dent into our carry import bill. Okay. Now, if you are looking at the rate of growth, for instance, the red meat, our average bulls are probably 300, at most 350 kg at the age of 6 or 7. And in this country, we are eating athletes. The meat is not soft, it's not marbling, the fat is not distributed. And the rate of growth is very slow. So when you get these exotic animals to cross, you get a bull hitting 600 kg at 30 months, while ours at the age of 6-7 years, genetically, is not more than 350 kilograms. You can see the huge difference. This is part of it. The rate of growth is very slow. Breeding age is also too long. So the rate of the characteristics of a national herd, is still very conservative. This is what we are looking at. And again, you also have to look at, like we always mention, the issue of feed and fodder availability. The animals are stunted. Animals will have to trek hundreds of kilometers to look for feed and fodder. Animal trekking 1 kilometer loses 12 kilocalories. They would have gone to manufacture milk and body weight. So instead of moving the animals to where the fodder is, why don't you move the fodder to where the animals are? So what campaign we are doing today, look at the Abalakili rice fields, look at the rice fields in Ogun, look at the rice fields in Kogi, look at the rice fields in Port Harcourt, Bayelsa. People who have a business sense can buy baling machines, bale these grasses, and bring them up north. It's a business. I personally have sold grasses across this country. I'm self-sufficient in my ranch in Kaduna. My animals don't graze outside. It's doable. We have done it. I have done it. Furthermore, if you look at why is meat so costly, let me give you an example. I've said this before. If you come into a modern abattoir to slaughter probably 100 animals, 100 bulls, there is no waste. My friend here mentioned about aggregating the blood. Each bull probably has 25 liters of blood. It all drains into a blood bank. The owner of the cow, the owner of the abattoir will sell now that blood to those who make fish meal. The waste can go into a biodigester to generate electricity you sell it. The sludge, after you take the methane out, will now go to organic fertilizer back to the farm.
Okay.
If you debone it, completely debone it, you crack the bones, get marrow, send it to pharmaceuticals. The hoofs, the bones, the horns are crushed into calcium that goes to making feed meal, feed for poultry. It's calcium. Then you have the hide. You also sell it. Now, if you have value from blood, from the waste, from the bones, from the marrow, then of course, red meat will not be that expensive.
Okay.
But today, because the butcher, the cattle merchant is only looking at making profit from red meat, all those others go to waste. Go to our abattoirs. You see bones littered all over the place. Everybody is slaughtering everywhere. And the hygienic conditions is not attractive. I've met people who told me that they went to an abattoir, they had to boycott meat for 1 week, for 2 weeks, because the unhygienic conditions.
Okay, we still have some.
Public
health yes, yes.
We spend so much money on antibiotics.
Antibiotics. Yes.
Most of them are coming
from
meat
that contaminated meat.
Yes. So we have another. We have.
Can I address the person that talked about
the
grazing reserves in the southwest? 97.3% of all the grazing reserves are in the north. You have the only 2 states in the south, in Ogun and Oyo. Oyo is 8,100, 8,500. Ogun is 52,100. And in the north, the only state that does not have is Kano. And the state that has the least is Benue, 32,500. So when you put this entire, is 93,000 out of 3.6 million hectares. So it's around 2.5, 2.6%. So 97 point something percent are in the core northern states that are very much receptive of the idea of ranching. And they are the ones bearing the brunt of the clashes, farmer header crisis that is happening. So that's the area I want to comment.
Okay, I have Abbas Abubakar Saad from Jalingo, Taraba State. He said, I'm happy with the creation of this ministry and the appointment of the current minister. There's no doubt that the ministry will boost meat and dairy output and create jobs. However, my major concern is what is the ministry doing to reduce farmer-header conflicts? Another one said, great opportunity for Nigeria to learn about what the government is doing, but let us go beyond just learning. Let us participate in any way we can. This is how the initiative will be of benefit for the people. Another one said, good morning, Nigeria. Today's topic is very good and interesting. Honorable Minister Idi Mukhtar Meha is fully on ground. He has been going around the country to ensure that he matched his words with action. And I've been following his program, More Grease to His Elbow. This is what we're talking about. This country must move forward. May God help our country. Mohammed from Okene in Kogi State.
All right, Minister, before you respond to some of these challenges, because I still have others as well, we will take a break. When we come back, the conversation will continue. Stay with us.
Feed and fodder
When we think about the digital economy, you can see it as the marketplace for digital goods and services. And increasingly, it's becoming a force to reckon with and an incredible contributor to economic growth, because we've seen the growth in technology and digital platforms. Technology has it really permeated every aspect of life and business, the way we live, the way we work. And when we talk about the digital economy, we're really talking about leveraging technology and digital platforms in a powerful way to drive growth, to drive solutions to problems, to drive applications, and to provide services.
The digital economy is something that has the potential to help Nigeria leapfrog a lot of its development challenges, right? Because think about what the mobile phone did for Nigeria years ago. That is the potential we have for digital, because it has a way of reducing the barriers to innovation. It has a way of being able to transform service delivery, whether it's government's delivery of services or whether it's services in the health system where people can use digital to actually be able to see their patients better. But it takes a lot to realize that potential of digital. The first thing is like every other thing, there's an infrastructure you have to build to be able to make sure that digital economy can thrive. Think of something like, capturing that happens in Nigeria, right? Where you capture, people's biometric when they go for a driver's license, when they go for passports, and each of those are separate things. Largely a system where we're able to streamline that and actually have a platform that exchange biometric information that makes it easier for people to access passports, easier for people to register to vote. But today it's very tough, right? But those are basic infrastructure that needs to be invested in. A lot of it is through government and private sector collaborations to make it happen.
If we're looking to accelerate growth in the Nigerian space, we really need to look at enabling the digital economy. That includes providing digital infrastructure, connectivity, because that's the highway, like the highway that everything rides on. We need to think about digital capacity building in terms of the suppliers to the economy and also the consumers within the economy. So a robust digital literacy initiative. The good thing about technology is that, one, it helps you to transcend boundaries. Two, it creates a level playing field, really, because if you create a solution, a technology-based solution that is applicable in this environment, that same technology can be applicable, exported to other environments. And, technology platforms also help drive collaboration, right? When we're thinking about innovation, when we're thinking about business growth, collaboration is an important part of that. So when we think about the impacts with the rest of the world, we find that actually technology platforms are giving us an opportunity to engage more actively, to collaborate, to create partnerships, to even export our knowledge and services for people to engage with all the great things I'm talking about technology and digital platforms. They need access, internet access, broadband access. So we need to make sure that access is more available and affordable for the average user.
The most important thing is to think about where you want to go as a country and actually what type of policies are going to help get you there. There are examples of countries who've been able to transform using digital, for example. There are very clear things those countries did to be able to make it happen. So a lot of this, the pathway to be able to solve these problems are not mysterious, right? It takes courage of the policymakers to be able to understudy some of these things and bring in the policies that work to be able to help them.
Thanks for staying with us. You're still on to Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA. Our conversation is still on National Livestock Development Accelerated Strategy. And we still have the Honorable Minister of Livestock Development, E.D. Mukhtar Meha, and the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Agribusiness and Productivity Enhancement, Dr. Kingsley Uzoma. So before we went on break, some of the comments were read to the minister, and we would like to respond to some of them. Although I have some here, I don't know whether you want to take everything together.
I think the last one that was from dealing with that issue of farmer harder crisis. Okay. It's unfortunate that we have been caught up in that web, but that is not to say there is no exit point. And what this ministry is preaching today is exactly what we need to do. Number one, we are encouraging every livestock keeper to be in the position to feed his animals in situ. And we are going to go into massive, in fact, we have already started. We have had a conversation with about 34 pastoral organizations at a two-day workshop here in Abuja. And we've told them the mandate of the ministry and the trajectory going forward. We are going to assist them. Number one, to be in the position to grow fodder for their animals. It is doable. Number two, we've also asked them, livestock should be taken as a business. Okay. What do I mean? You can approach any state government. You want land to establish a ranch. Just like anybody who wants to build up an estate or a school or a clinic or a media organization will apply for land. You cannot be in the center, city center. Of course, we are promoting urban agriculture, but not for the ranching. Because for ranching, you need large amount of land. Apart from the pens, facilities, and other things for the livestock, you also need some land to grow your pasture. So that is what we're promoting. And I do believe that there is no state government today in the country that somebody comes with a bag of money. I want to establish a ranch. I need 30, 40, 100 hectares of land, and he'll be denied. Because you are bringing business. You are bringing prosperity. And your animals are not going to roam the street. They are not going to encroach on some farmers' farmlands and begin to cause trouble. So this is what we are preaching. And when we say that every business requires land as a premises, that includes livestock, where people can now have ranches. You can do ranching, you can do dairy farming, you can do goat, you can do sheep. In fact, land can also be allocated for apiculture, for bee farming. I have a portion in my land in Kaduna where I keep bees. I have about 40 to 45 beehives. Wow. Time is 70,000 bees per beehive. I harvest my honey and I sell organic honey. I need land. I was given land by the ever business friendly Kaduna state government. And I believe every state government today in the country, not necessarily in northern Nigeria, anywhere you go, you want some land to establish a ranch, you will be given. That is one way of doing it. And that is what we are doing to sensitize people who keep livestock. The day and age of roving about is over. If you ask a pastoralist anywhere, where are you going? I do not know. Where are you coming from? I do not know. You have 2,000 heads of cattle. There's no empty land anywhere any longer. It's no longer sustainable. We are not saying that it should happen tomorrow. It cannot happen tomorrow. It's a gradual process. We begin by resetting the mind. I am into business and I need to do this. But how do we encourage them? We're encouraging the look. We can source the seed and give it out as a subsidy. Number two, we do breed improvement. Let me give you an example. If today you require 100 liters of milk from an average Nigerian herd, you need 100 cows. If you breed their counterpart, you need 100 liters of milk. Okay. You get it from 3 cows. Look at the difference. Managing 100 cows and managing 3 cows, the same productivity. This is what we're talking about. So by the time we do breed improvement, people can now see the value in upscaling the genetics of your herd. Rather than carrying 2,000 or 500 or 200 or 300 cattle moving all over the place, you now have a fewer number with bigger productivity. Then that means that you can now grow the pasture to feed these animals. Okay. That is what we are promoting. Okay. And by becoming sedentary, we improve the quality of your life. Of your life. Your children can go to school, they can learn other trades, and the milkmaid will no longer hawk her milk into the city, going on foot. It will be an off-taking agreement with a processor nearby, so that the milk can be sold, high quality, uncompromised, and then you get paid on a daily basis or on a weekly basis. So this is what we're promoting. And we do believe that with what we are doing today, the campaign we are carrying about, the engagement consultations we're having, the message is sinking. It's a gradual process. But we cannot establish a ranch in one day.
All right. Thank you very much, Minister, Honorable Minister. Okay, let's take some of these questions so that Dr. Uzoma can respond to some of them. I said, good morning to you all. Thank you for this conversation. My take is this: I want to believe that this land to be used should only be for livestock, not for people resettlement. This from Akiola. This one says, the high cost, this Nandom Uyep from Jos. So the high cost of livestock feed in Nigeria stems from various factors, including fluctuating feed supplies, rising ingredient prices, and inefficiencies in production and distribution. These issues impact the profitability of livestock producers, particularly in intensive sectors like poultry. What are some potential solutions to the problem? Thank you for your service and God bless Nigeria. And this one said, Honorable Minister, sir, okay, good morning to you all in the studio, and a special way to the Honorable Minister. The Honorable Minister, sir, what are your plans to ensure that you help solve insecurity in Nigeria by ensuring that animal grazing is done like developed countries? In Inusa Victor Anthony Mary from Port Harcourt. Maybe we'll just pause here so that you can respond to some of these questions.
I will start with the last one.
Yeah, all right.
What are the measures? That is the NL gas the ministry have just unveiled. If it's fully implemented, and that's why the minister had been going around the country trying to get this stakeholder buy-in, major gatekeepers buy-in. If it's fully implemented, you will not have, they say seeing is believing. Yeah. The header is a business person. His business is that his cow, that is his office. So if you know that trekking, like the average this thing within 3 years is 250 kg, where the global average is in 2 years 600 kg. So if you can show him a way where he can double the weight of his bull in 2 years without moving, he'll make more money. The same thing with milk. The 1 liter is, even now that rains are falling, during the peak of the dry season, they may not even produce anything. And this part of what they sell. And because they sell them in the bushes, so it's just, they're getting peanuts. If you look at, I will use the Sebore farm in Gongoshi area, in the Admiral you got to see here. They implemented something like that. Most of the people that roam the animals out, they don't roam it again because they have a milk collection system within that ecosystem that every morning their cows come, they milk them, somebody comes, they weigh the milk that was given to them, and at the end of the month they are paid something. So they are not sending their children to school. Again, back to the insecurity you talked about. Actually, the cause of the insecurity is that we have not been using these grazing reserves. We have 3.6 million hectares of farmland. If we have a conservative stocking ratio of 5 per hectare, it's more than 15 million. So you can take up all the national cattle head. So, and when you now take it up, and people are, I will use away now. If you bring in 100 headers with their cattle there, and they have been tagged, registered, recorded, and then tomorrow they will see somebody, 5 other persons come, they will be the first one to report because they don't know whether these ones have come to steal their cattle or have come to give them disease. Because when you put them in a place, you now begin to bring in sanitary measures, sanitary and phytosanitary measures that people will not test. Do they have tuberculosis? Do they have zoonotic diseases? So when they see that their own cows have been vaccinated, they will not want somebody from who they don't know to come in with cows which they don't know whether they are vaccinated or not. Just like if you have a dog. If you see white dogs, you know they can have rabies. You don't want them to associate with your own dogs. Exactly what will happen. So they will be the ones to report the errant headers that have entered. They will call the local police. See, we've seen these people. Please come and help remove them and their cows. So you now have that institutional buy-in, the societal buy-in, the gatekeepers, the key gatekeepers within the society. And then the question on what are you doing on poultry, they are all working synergy. Poultry feed is maize and soybean. High productivity cow breeds also depend on soybean and maize. So if you are creating what is happening in Nigeria is economy of scale. The unit cost is very low. The average soybean farmer in Nigeria gets less than a ton. The same soybean farmer in Brazil gets 3.5 tons. So you don't expect the price to be the same thing, the unit cost. The same thing with maize, get less than 1 ton, but you can get 8 tons. But when you now bring in business, let people see this thing as an ecosystem of financial and economic value creation. People will now be concentration of capital, deployment of capital to get the necessary factors of production that are lacking, that are making the farmers not get the optimized yield. Because you need money, you need fertilizer, you need pesticides, you need irrigation. So how do you do that? Is what the Honorable Minister is doing through his ministry by doing the heavy lifting within that area. It will not only be grasses. You plant soybean, you plant maize. So the soybean farmer can sell to the cattle farmers or to the poultry farmers. Even the poultry may come to set it closer because the logistic cost of moving the feed, the maize and the soybean to the where the poultry is located will be higher. So it will be short logistics for him to set up his poultry side by side with where you have the input, the raw material, the soybean, the maize. So and so the cattle farmer benefits, the maize farmer benefits, prosperity, spreading of prosperity across different socioeconomic levels in the country. And then when you talked about only herders, you have agro-pastoralists. So the herders that will stay there will not eat grasses alone. They will also have to feed on other things. They will also have to have where their children can go to school. Because if their children are not living with them, you will still go back to square one. They will have to leave to go and see their wives, to go and see their children. So you have to develop an ecosystem, and it is not peculiar to Nigeria. Every other place where it has worked, you see them living in a community. So this is a community-based, grassroots-based approach to the, recatalyzation and reconfiguration of the entire livestock ecosystem. And you cannot work in disaggregation. None of them is disaggregated from each other. They all work in synergy. They use the same feed. They have the same markets, the same cold chain. So if you have a big concentration of 500,000 heads of cattle within a place, you have an abattoir. You have a cold chain facility. So would you prefer to develop your own cold chain facility alone rather than to leverage already existing where you have economy of scale? So if you're a poultry with 200,000 beds capacity and their target market is in Abuja, Betty, in Jos, for instance, you want where there is cold room so that when you slaughter, you leverage the same cold room infrastructure there to send it out. Also, this farming of maize and the soybean, they all require irrigation. So if we develop the irrigation system within these reserves, I believe close by, the maize farmers, the soybean farmers will prefer to be there because they will also leverage the irrigation infrastructure that have been developed. Like you talked about bringing the rural electrification. If they put the distributed solar power system, there, the major cost of irrigation is diesel. People can now say, oh, we have this electricity, renewable energy that is there. Why not me come and drill a borehole close that I will tap the current from that REA solar farm to power my irrigation system,
Dr. Uzoma,
to power my poultry.
Because of time, let me just pause you there so that Jumai can take one or two.
Yeah, I have one very
Minister
important question that that came in from Hiba in Abuja. She said, "Great job in blueprints. And can the Honorable Minister shed more light on what the health implications are for consuming genetically modified cattle in this era of high cancer-yielding foods?"
I've never heard of, well, of course, it may be there at the rim of research. Yeah. But what we are looking at, these are animals that have been selected based on performance over the years. To select a top-performing species will probably take no less than 10 to 15 to 20 years. And this is what has happened. We are looking at what are those top breeds. We are looking, for instance, Griolando in Brazil. That was a cross between Gris in India, and Holstein Friesian. So out of that careful selection of top performance, we get Griolando. That is very, 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 very prominent and high-performing dairy cow. We also have the Nelore. The Nelore also interested. The other parent came from India. Then you have the Sahiwal. Then you have also all kinds of animal species that have been brought in, to get the top breed that we are looking at. It's not as a result of genetic editing. Of course, gene editing is there. Gene sequencing is there. We want also to create breeding centers where we can domicile that knowledge. But as far as we know today, what we have are a result of crossing. You bring this one, you bring that one, and then you match them, you select them, and see top performance. Now, what do you mean by top performance? In terms of productivity, in terms of either body build, feed conversion, milk yield, adaptability, rate of growth, resistance to diseases, ease of calving. These are things that we look at.
Okay.
So today we want to assure you that what we are bringing has nothing to do with GM.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, I have these responses from some of our viewers. It says, good morning to Dr. Kingsley. I love your talk and the minister. If the Ruga can be regulated by state government, then I think it is in the right direction, since I will also have a space to raise my piggery there. This from Ranta in Jaws. Good morning, Nigerians. Thank you for this subject. It's very educating, and I'm very much interested. My question to Honorable Minister is, is there any incentives for individual smallholder headers who intend to start livestock business in Nigeria? If yes, where can one get such information or support? That's Udo from Uyo. Then this one says, good morning, Nigeria. I have confidence that this new ministry is well equipped in regards to the versatile knowledge of the minister. I pray that there will be no interference in what the ministry has packaged for Nigerians. Felix Adua from Jaws. Then this one says, thank you, the NTA crew and the guests. The strategy document is well prepared and implementable. More education and enlightenment to Nigerians and pastoralists to buy into the new livestock business model. Ranching is the only way for livestock development in Nigeria. That's Dr. Yahaya Hussein from Abuja. You would like to respond to some of this?
Yeah, I have just one. I'm going to.
Because of our
yes.
time.
Bonaya from Ebonyi State said he wants to thank the Honorable Minister. It's a wonderful way to develop Nigeria, especially in the area of livestock production, knowing its positive contribution to the economic growth of Nigeria. However, with all these initiatives deployed, if herders are not well sensitized, some of the challenges highlighted may still persist.
Okay, thank you. I think let me once again disabuse our mind. This is not about Ruga. Whatever Ruga means. I've explained Ruga is a Hausa word that was conveniently turned into rural grazing area. Number two, what we are doing today is beyond Ruga. There are designated grazing areas covered by law. This is where we are going to rehabilitate and get them into prosperous economic hubs. Anybody who wants to go into livestock keeping, you want to do pasture cultivation, commercial, you want to do ranching, you want to do goat, you want to do poultry, you want to do dairy processing, you want to do meat processing, you want to do leather works, those reserves are there for livestock businesses. So no question of Ruga again. That should be understood.
Okay.
We have gone beyond that. The livestock ministry is concerned about the entire value chain in the livestock sector, and that is what we are driving.
So what's your final word as we
my final word today?
Or first, let's take from as I say, then we'll now have yours.
Well, just to buttress further on the issue, you know, the grazing reserves is just like we have the river basins. It's also government land, but it's just for irrigation agriculture. It's designated for irrigation agriculture. So the grazing reserves are there. Government is not taking anybody's land. This is not Ruga. Point blank.
Thank you. Honorable Minister.
Today, out of this neglect of the livestock sector, 64 years since independence, here comes a man in the name of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu GCFR, who has seen the volume and value in livestock and what it can contribute to Nigeria and bring peace, has created the Federal Ministry of Livestock Development. Today, it is championing the process of unlocking the value in that sector for every Nigerian who is interested in keeping livestock or any other business in the livestock sector. We are here today ready and prepared to work along with local and international investors to make sure that the livestock sector in Nigeria today has been turned from a liability into an asset for shared national prosperity.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. From liability to assets. Thank you so much, Honorable Mr. E.D. Mukhtar Meha, Minister of Livestock Development. Thank you so much for your contribution this morning. And also want to thank very much Dr. Kingsley Uzoma, Senior Special Assistant to the President on Agribusiness and Productivity Enhancement. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you very much.
We also want to appreciate our viewers for your comments and responses and questions. Keep it coming. We appreciate your interactions on this program. My name is Ademola Adioye.
And I'm Jumwa Yusuf. Do have a wonderful day. Thanks so much for your time.